A black belt champion's foot connects with a royal guard's face. The impact echoes across the courtyard. His bearskin cap flies through the air. The crowd gasps in shock. For a moment, the martial artist smiles. He thinks he's proven his point. But then something impossible happens. The guard doesn't fall. Blood runs down his temple, but his eyes lock onto the champion with a clarity that makes trained fighters go cold. What happens next will shatter everything this martial artist believed about strength, discipline, and real combat. Because the man he just kicked wasn't what he thought, not even close. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Also, make sure to check out our second channel, Guard Patrol, linked in the pinned comments. We upload daily at the same time on both channels, so subscribe to both and never miss a powerful story. The Players' London, Buckingham Palace. Dawn light stretches across the courtyard. Tourists gather with cameras ready. They want to see the changing of the guard. It's one of Britain's most iconic ceremonies. Among the crowd stands Ryan Chen. He's different from the others. Designer tracksuit, custom Rolex, confidence that borders on arrogance. At 32, Ryan has built an empire, 3 international martial arts titles, a chain of elite dojos across California. His Instagram bio says it all: undefeated, untouchable, unstoppable. Ryan isn't alone. 4 men surround him, his training partners, his devoted followers. They wear matching team jackets. Chen's elite combat system printed on the back. They form a protective semicircle around him. It's instinctive. Years of tournament competitions have trained them this way. This is what they call security? Ryan scoffs. He's staring at a royal guard. The guard stands perfectly still. Scarlet tunic, bearskin cap, not a muscle moving. Ryan shakes his head. In my world, a fighter who stands still is just asking to get knocked down. His crew nods in agreement. One of them grins. Remember Tokyo last year? That Swedish champion who said he was unbeatable? Didn't last 40 seconds with you in the ring. Ryan's eyes narrow. He studies the guard with professional assessment. The guard's name is William Harrington. But Ryan doesn't know that. He doesn't know anything about him. And that's his first mistake. William Harrington is 28 years old. He's served for 8 years. His uniform is immaculate, his posture perfect. His face shows nothing. But behind that expressionless mask is a story. 3 tours in Afghanistan, night operations in Syria, a medal ceremony at the Ministry of Defense that most people will never hear about. Look at that stance, Ryan mutters. Completely vulnerable. No center of gravity, no defensive posture. He rolls his shoulders. Muscles ripple. Muscles built through thousands of hours of training. All that ceremonial garbage would get him destroyed in a real fight. A few tourists nearby glance at Ryan's group. They sense something. The unmistakable energy of contained aggression. Some look nervous. Among them is Colonel James Thornton. Retired, but you can still see the military bearing. 30 years with the Royal Marines. Medals on his lapel that speak of real battles, real sacrifices. He pauses in his morning walk. His weathered face registers concern. He's seen this type before. Men looking for confrontation. The demonstration begins. Let me show you what a real fighter looks like, Ryan announces. He steps closer to Harrington. The guard's eyes remain fixed forward, not a flicker of response. Ryan begins to lecture. See, a real fighter is always ready, always moving, always aware. He demonstrates a defensive stance. His body shifts with practiced precision, years of training evident in every movement. He starts circling the guard, analyzing his form, looking for weaknesses. Look at this poor guy. They've trained all the fighting instinct out of him. He approaches from different angles, deliberately entering Harrington's peripheral vision. In a real combat situation, this level of rigidity gets you killed. More tourists gather. An impromptu semicircle forms. Some look uncomfortable, others curious. A few are entertained by the unexpected show. A German family quietly ushers their children away. The parents exchange knowing glances, disapproval clear on their faces. You know what we're looking at here? Ryan gestures to the guard like he's presenting an exhibit. The difference between ceremony and combat. These guys are performing, not fighting. He executes a series of quick jabs. They stop just short of Harrington's face, demonstrating his control. Every move I make is designed for one purpose: victory. Colonel Thornton moves closer. His expression remains neutral, but his eyes never leave Ryan's increasingly aggressive display. The medals on his lapel catch the morning light. Decorations that speak of real combat. Not tournaments, not trophies, real war. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan calls out. He's assumed the role of ringside announcer now. "What you're witnessing is the fundamental difference between British tradition and actual combat effectiveness." He gestures toward Harrington with theatrical flair. These guards represent a bygone era, when standing in formation was considered military prowess. Ryan's training partners have positioned themselves strategically. They form what martial artists call a demonstration circle. Their matching jackets create a visual barrier. They've separated Harrington from the rest of the crowd, turned the public space into an improvised arena. "This is Jin," Ryan gestures to the tallest of his crew, a man with a stoic expression, hands wrapped in professional-grade tape. "Three-time international kickboxing champion." He nods toward another, compact, muscular, cauliflower ear of a fighter. "And Mark is here, former welterweight MMA title holder. We train fighters who win actual combat sports, not ceremonial soldiers who win costume contests." The crowd grows larger, drawn by the spectacle. A British family near the back exchanges uncomfortable glances. The father places protective hands on his children's shoulders. An elderly woman with a veteran's pin on her coat shakes her head in quiet disapproval. Crossing the line. "Watch how a real fighter moves," Ryan instructs. He executes lightning-fast punches. They stop mere inches from Harrington's torso. Every movement has purpose, intent, lethal potential. Nothing wasted, nothing for show. This is fighting efficiency, developed through thousands of hours facing actual opponents, not standing at attention. Colonel Thornton makes his way through the crowd. His military bearing parts the onlookers with quiet authority. His face shows concern, not for Harrington's safety, but for what might happen if the guard is forced to break protocol. "You see, the problem with military training," Ryan projects his voice like a seminar leader, "is that it's designed for group thinking. Follow orders, maintain formation, sacrifice individuality." He circles Harrington again. Professional scrutiny in every glance. Martial arts is about achieving personal excellence, about pushing human capabilities to their absolute limit. Ryan executes a spinning kick. It whistles past Harrington's ear, close enough that the guard would feel the air displacement. The crowd gasps. Several people take involuntary steps backward. "Notice he doesn't even blink," Ryan says with mock admiration. "That's not discipline, folks, that's fear. The fear of breaking rules, of thinking independently." He positions himself directly in front of Harrington, hands on hips, studying the guard's impassive face. "In my dojo, I teach people to overcome that fear, to react, to engage with reality." A woman with a young daughter pulls the child away. "This is disrespectful. We're leaving." Several others follow, uncomfortable with the escalating tension. "I think we need a practical demonstration," Ryan announces. His voice carries practiced authority. The authority of a man used to commanding attention in competition rings. Theory is fine, but nothing teaches like experience. He adjusts his stance. Fluid. Purposeful. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you why static defense, the kind these guards represent, is fundamentally obsolete." Colonel Thornton moves forward with urgent purpose, but Ryan's training partners close ranks. They create a human barrier between the retired officer and their leader. One of them, heavy-set with a fighter's broken nose, places a hand on Thornton's chest. "Let the demonstration finish, old-timer," he says. Conversational tone, but his intent is unmistakable. Educational purposes. Thornton's eyes narrow. "That guard is not what you think he is," he says quietly. "Your friend is making a serious mistake." The point of no return. Ryan begins a meticulous warm-up routine, stretching his shoulders, rotating his neck, practiced efficiency. The most dangerous delusion in combat sports, he lectures, rotating his wrists, is believing that tradition equals effectiveness. These guards stand here looking impressive, but they've sacrificed practical skills for ceremony. Now for my final demonstration. Ryan's voice takes on the quality of a ringside announcer. I'm going to show you exactly why this type of static defense fails against modern combat techniques. He moves into position. His stance shifts subtly. Trained fighters would recognize it immediately. Competition-ready posture. In a real combat situation, maintaining situational awareness is critical. This guard has surrendered his awareness to ceremony. Ryan begins a complex approach sequence, the kind used to set up championship-winning strikes. His training has made him vulnerable, not strong. The crowd falls completely silent. Everyone senses it. A line is about to be crossed. Several people back away. Others seem frozen, unable to look away from the impending collision. A defender who won't adapt, Ryan declares. His movements accelerate. Who can't respond to changing conditions. Who remains rigidly committed to outdated protocols. He launches into a blindingly fast combination. Each move flows into the next. Years of practiced precision. The final move is a spinning heel kick, aimed directly at Harrington's face. The impact. The impact is audible. A sharp crack cuts through the morning air like a gunshot. Ryan's foot connects solidly with the side of Harrington's face. The bearskin cap flies in a dramatic arc against the blue London sky. The force would fell most men instantly, but not Harrington. A collective gasp rises from the crowd, followed by absolute silence. Time seems to stretch, each second extending into an eternity. The bearskin cap completes its arc. It lands on the courtyard stones with a muffled thud. Ryan recovers his balance with practiced efficiency. A triumphant smile begins to form on his lips. And that, he announces to the stunned audience, is why. His words die in his throat. Harrington hasn't fallen, hasn't staggered. His head snapped sideways with the impact. But his body absorbed the blow. The resilience of someone who's endured far worse. A thin line of blood traces its way down from his temple. But his eyes have changed. They're locked directly onto Ryan's now. For the first time, they show no pain, no fear, only cold, focused clarity. Experienced combatants would recognize it immediately. "Oh," one of Ryan's crew whispers. The bravado evaporates from his voice. For a heartbeat, nothing moves. The crowd holds its collective breath. Colonel Thornton has stopped speaking into his phone. His expression shifts from concern to something closer to grim anticipation. Then Harrington moves. Reality hits harder. It's not the clumsy response of a ceremonial figure, not someone unaccustomed to actual combat. It's the precise, economical motion of a predator who has stalked targets through mountain passes and urban conflict zones. His ceremonial rifle clatters to the stones. Harrington closes the distance between himself and Ryan. The speed belies his formal attire. Ryan, to his credit, recognizes the danger instantly. He shifts into a defensive stance. "Now we're talking," he says, but the confidence in his voice has hollowed. "Let's see what they actually teach you, soldiers." The guard's first strike interrupts Ryan's taunt. Brutal efficiency. It's not showy, not dramatic, just a textbook perfect combat move, delivered with the force of someone who's applied such techniques in life or death situations. Ryan blocks instinctively. His trained reflexes respond before his brain can process, but the impact still sends him staggering backward. The guard doesn't speak, doesn't posture, doesn't play to the crowd. He moves with focused intensity, someone executing a mission parameter, not performing for spectators. His expression remains professionally neutral, even as he systematically dismantles the martial artist's defenses. Clinical precision. Ryan attempts a counterattack, a kick that won him tournaments across 3 continents. Harrington catches the leg mid-air. With one decisive motion, he takes the champion to the ground. The impact knocks the wind from Ryan's lungs. His eyes widen. Sudden, humbling recognition. He's drastically outmatched. Guard Harrington maintains his position, one knee precisely placed on Ryan's sternum. Enough pressure to immobilize, not to injure. The martial artist's surprise gives way to a competitor's instinct. He tries to counter, but each attempt is met with subtle adjustments, his extensive training rendered ineffective. "Stay down," Harrington speaks for the first time. His voice carries quiet authority, command, not anger. "This ends now." The truth revealed. Colonel Thornton steps forward. Ryan's crew no longer attempts to block his approach. "I believe," he addresses the martial artist with military precision, "you've just received a practical education in the difference between performing combat and experiencing it." Ryan struggles ineffectively against Harrington's hold. "What the hell? You can't—" "Guard Harrington," Thornton cuts him off. His tone conversational yet edged with steel, can do considerably more than he's currently demonstrating. Before his assignment to the Queen's Guard, he served with the Special Reconnaissance Regiment, 4 combat deployments, 2 distinguished service commendations. He pauses, letting the information sink in. "The ceremonial duties you've been mocking require the highest levels of discipline, from soldiers who've already proven themselves in actual combat." The crowd has reformed at a safer distance. Expressions mix shock and dawning understanding. Palace security personnel approach rapidly across the courtyard. Their radios crackle with urgent communications. "SRR," one of Ryan's training partners repeats, his previous bravado completely evaporated. "Those guys," Thornton finishes for him, "are not to be trifled with." "Quite right." Harrington maintains his position, his breathing controlled and even. Despite the exertion of the brief confrontation, the thin line of blood from Ryan's kick has traced a path down his cheek, but his expression remains professionally detached. The same focus he maintained during night operations, in environments far more dangerous than this palace courtyard. The education. "Every guard standing ceremonial duty," Thornton continues. He's addressing not just Ryan but the gathered tourists. "Is an active duty soldier with extensive combat training, and in many cases battlefield experience. The discipline you mistook for weakness, Mr. Chen, is the same discipline that keeps them effective in situations where your tournament training would prove fatally inadequate." He moved like... Ryan has stopped struggling. New awareness dawns in his eyes. "I didn't expect..." "No, you wouldn't have," Thornton nods. Competition fighting and combat operations develop entirely different skill sets. Your techniques are impressive in controlled environments, with rules and referees. Guard Harrington's techniques are effective in environments where the consequences of failure aren't measured in lost points. Palace security has arrived, surrounding the scene with professional efficiency. Their commander assesses the situation at a glance. He approaches Colonel Thornton with respectful recognition. "Colonel, sir, we'll take it from here." Thornton nods. "I believe Guard Harrington has the situation well in hand, Lieutenant. Mr. Chen here decided to test the reflexes of the Queen's Guard in a rather direct fashion." The security officer's expression hardens. He takes in the scene. The bearskin cap still lying on the stones. The thin streak of blood on Harrington's face. "I see. That's a serious offense, sir." "Indeed it is," Thornton agrees. "Assault on a serving member of His Majesty's forces, disruption of ceremonial duties, and I suspect several other charges that the Crown Prosecution Service will enumerate with their characteristic thoroughness." Harrington looks to his commanding officer for instruction. At a subtle nod, he releases his hold on Ryan, rises to his feet with the same fluid precision that characterized his response. He steps back, resumes a posture of parade ground attention. Despite the absence of his bearskin cap, what people don't know. The tourists form a respectful semicircle around Colonel Thornton, cameras forgotten. They're absorbing the reality of what they just witnessed. The retired officer stands with parade ground precision, despite his civilian clothes, his bearing that of a man accustomed to explaining difficult truths with clarity. The uniform these guards wear. He gestures toward Harrington, who has resumed his post with perfect composure despite the blood still visible on his cheek. represents far more than ceremonial tradition. It is earned through the same rigorous training that produces our nation's combat forces. An American tourist raises his hand tentatively. But why have them just standing there if they're actual soldiers? Seems like a waste of training. Thornton's smile holds patient understanding. An interesting question that reveals a common misconception. These ceremonial duties rotate among active duty units. The soldier standing guard today might have been conducting counter-terrorism operations 6 months ago, and may deploy to a conflict zone 6 months from now. He gestures toward Harrington with respectful acknowledgement. Their ceremonial stillness isn't their defining capability. It's simply one expression of the discipline that makes them effective in all aspects of their service. The security officer returns, approaching Thornton with professional courtesy. Colonel, Mr. Chen is being processed for formal charges. Given the public nature of the incident and the injury to Guard Harrington, the charges are quite serious. Thornton nods. As they should be. Assaulting a serviceman on duty is not a matter the Crown takes lightly. He's requesting to speak with Guard Harrington, the officer adds. His tone neutral, but his expression skeptical. Says he wants to apologize properly. Thornton glances toward Harrington. The guard gives an almost imperceptible nod, despite maintaining his forward gaze. I believe that can be arranged once his duty shift concludes, though I suspect Guard Harrington's commanding officer will have the final word on that matter. The real difference, what Mr. Chen failed to understand, Thornton continues, what many civilians understandably don't recognize, is that military excellence isn't measured by the same metrics as competitive sports. He lets that sink in. The tourists lean in, listening carefully now. In competition, the goal is to demonstrate superior technique within established rules. In military service, the goal is effective mission completion, often under conditions where rules are secondary to survival. He gestures to Harrington's immaculate uniform, now slightly marred by the confrontation. The discipline you see in these guards, the ability to stand motionless for hours, to maintain perfect composure regardless of provocation, that's not separate from their combat training. It's an extension of it. The same mental control that allows a soldier to remain still under tourist harassment, Thornton explains, is what allows them to remain calm under enemy fire. A young woman at the front speaks up, her accent marking her as local. But why didn't he respond sooner? He just took that kick to the face without moving. An excellent question, Thornton replies. Military protocol establishes clear parameters for when a guard may break ceremony and respond to a threat. They are trained to exercise maximum restraint, to distinguish between irritating behavior and genuine danger. His explanation carries the weight of someone who has both followed and issued such orders. Guard Harrington demonstrated that restraint perfectly. He responded only when directly assaulted, and even then, his response was precisely calibrated to neutralize rather than harm. A palace staff member approaches carrying a first aid kit. After a brief exchange with Thornton, she moves toward Harrington. The guard maintains his position as she carefully cleans the blood from his face. His eyes remain fixed forward throughout. His discipline unbroken, even during this necessary intervention. To stand guard at these posts, Thornton continues, once the staff member finishes, is considered one of the highest honors in military service. These men are selected not just for their ceremonial precision, but for their exemplary service records. The bearskin cap and scarlet tunic aren't costumes, he adds. They're recognition of excellence. He smiles slightly, a rare break in his formal demeanor. If Mr. Chen had bothered to research before his demonstration, he might have discovered that many of these guards have combat decorations. That would fill a display case, far more impressive than any tournament trophy cabinet. The aftermath. As afternoon shadows lengthen across Buckingham Palace's courtyard, Guard William Harrington emerges from the guard quarters. He's in his standard combat uniform now, rather than ceremonial dress. The military physician had thoroughly examined the impact site, noted with professional approval Harrington's instinctive reaction. That turned what could have been a jaw-breaking blow into a glancing impact. You rolled with it perfectly, the doctor commented while applying antiseptic to the cut. Textbook defensive reaction. Harrington merely nodded. The instinct to minimize impact damage had been drilled into him during countless hours of close-quarters combat training. Training that emphasized survival over spectacle, efficiency over showmanship. The medical assessment confirmed what he already knew. No significant injury from Ryan's kick, just superficial bruising that would fade within days. He'd endured far worse. In training exercises, let alone combat deployments, in regions whose names rarely appear in news reports. Inside the security office, Ryan Chen sits alone, his designer tracksuit now rumpled, his championship confidence deflated by the reality of criminal charges and the humbling experience of being so thoroughly outmatched. When Harrington enters, Ryan stands immediately. His body language communicates respect, entirely absent from their earlier encounter. "Guard Harrington." The security officer nods. "Mr. Chen has been formally charged, but he requested this conversation before processing continues." Harrington's nod is professional, neither friendly nor hostile. "Understood. I'll be right outside," the officer adds, stepping out and closing the door behind him. For a moment, the two men regard each other in silence, the martial arts champion and the soldier, each recognizing something in the other that had been obscured by their roles and Ryan's assumptions. "Man to man, that was SRR training, wasn't it?" Ryan finally asks, his voice quieter than before, the performative quality gone. "I've trained with special forces guys from 3 countries, never seen anything quite like what you did." "We adapt techniques to operational requirements," Harrington replies simply, neither confirming nor denying the specifics of his military background. Ryan's laugh holds no humor. "Operational requirements, right." He gestures to the chair opposite him. "Mind if we talk for a minute? Man to man?" Harrington takes the offered seat, his posture military straight, even in this informal setting. "I'm listening." "I screwed up," Ryan admits bluntly. "Completely misjudged what I was looking at when I saw you standing there. Saw..." He hesitates, searching for words. "A target." "Not a fellow professional." Harrington finishes for him. Ryan nods. Genuine regret crosses his face. "That's exactly it. In my world, everything's about demonstrating superiority, proving you're the best." He looks down at his hands, the hands that had won championships, but had proven ineffective against Harrington's disciplined response. "I didn't understand what I was actually looking at." "Few civilians do," Harrington replies, his voice neutral but not unkind. "That's by design." "The stillness," Ryan says, looking up again. "I thought it was just ceremony, just tradition, but it's actually control." Harrington finishes the same control that allows us to stand motionless for hours, allows us to make split-second decisions under fire, without panicking. Ryan nods slowly, processing this revelation. "In competition, everything I do is designed to be seen, to impress judges and spectators. What you did," he shakes his head, "there was nothing showy about it, just effective." "Different training for different purposes," Harrington says, echoing Colonel Thornton's earlier assessment. "My job isn't to win points or impress audiences, it's to complete objectives and protect lives." "They're going to make an example of me, aren't they?" Ryan asks, glancing toward the door where the security officer waits. "Likely," Harrington confirms without emotion. Assaulting a guard on duty is taken very seriously. Ryan accepts this with surprising composure. "Fair enough, I earned whatever comes next." He straightens in his chair, making a visible effort to face his situation with dignity. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for the kick, but for the disrespect before that, for not recognizing what was in front of me." Harrington studies him for a moment, assessing the sincerity of the apology. Whatever he sees apparently satisfies him, because he gives a single, precise nod. "Acknowledged." As he stands to leave, Ryan speaks again. "One last question. When I kicked you, most men would have gone down, or at least staggered. You barely moved. How?" Harrington pauses at the door, his expression unchanging. but something almost like professional respect enters his voice. When you've had IEDs detonate nearby, a kick to the face is just another Tuesday. He leaves without waiting for a response, returning to his unit and his duties, with the same disciplined precision that characterized his entire response to the incident. Behind him, Ryan Chen remains seated, faced with the humbling realization that there are different kinds of strength in the world, and that he had only mastered one of the lesser varieties. The new respect. Back at his post the following day, Guard Harrington stands at attention, his bearskin cap restored, his uniform immaculate. No trace remains of the previous day's confrontation, but tourists who approach now do so with new respect. Their cameras more discreet, their admiration more genuine. Colonel Thornton, passing by during his morning walk, pauses to observe the guard and the respectful distance maintained by the visitors. He smiles slightly, nodding in satisfaction before continuing on his way. Sometimes, he reflects, the most effective lessons about respect aren't taught through words, but through demonstrations that reveal the truth behind appearances. What would you have done in Ryan's situation? Would you have seen past the ceremonial uniform to recognize the combat veteran beneath? Or would you, like many, have mistaken stillness for weakness? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new about the Royal Guards. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that reveal the truth behind ceremonial traditions, and hit that bell icon to be notified when we upload our next video. Make sure to check out our previous videos appearing on your screen right now. And remember, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time with another brand new video.